Welcome to Talk the Talk, calling all activists and allies alike. It's time to come together and demand the changes we need in this unjust world. I'm Jordan, a Black male activist.
And I'm Kaitlin, a white female ally, and together we created Talk the Talk, a platform for speaking candidly and constructively on race.
We will provide the starting points for uncomfortable but meaningful conversations and introduce new knowledge and perspective.
We'll arm you with the tools necessary to combat racism anywhere and anytime you experience it.
Right now is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to create lasting change to racial and social injustices in America, and we challenge you to do your part and to talk the talk. What up, Kay?
Hello, good morning. Good morning, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. I'm excited for this conversation that we're going to have. I'm excited for, enjoying the rest of my Sunday once I'm done talking to you.
Yeah, we're recording very early. This is our new thing is we're recording on Sunday. I almost said Saturday.
Nah.
Sunday mornings. So
Sunday morning vibes. I was watching some NBA games a lot recently. A couple games yesterday.
RIP Sixers.
Yeah, sorry, 215. But
it's so sad.
Yeah, another year in a row. I remember last year we were together watching the Sixers get bounced out by the Raptors on the Raptors' road to the championship.
That wasn't last year. Was that last year?
Yes, that was last year.
Oh, that was. Yeah, that's right. I was living at your house. Yeah. God. Sorry, 2020 is a time warp.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly a year. That was, I think it was in May, but it was last basketball season.
Yeah, I know, but that's still
changed.
Yeah, what?
But the Raptors did win that year. That was the Kawhi quadruple bounce that ended the Sixers season. And the Raptors went on to win the championship. And for those who did not see the video that came out this week, Masai Ujiri, the Raptors president, team president, Black man, and after they won the championship against the Golden State Warriors at Oracle Arena, he went to go celebrate his accomplishment. He made a massive trade, bet on himself and his knowledge, and bet on Kawhi Leonard and the Raptors in general that they would have this 1 year window where they would go on to win a championship, and it all came to fruition. He traded away DeMar DeRozan, who at that point was the face of the Raptors. Him and Kyle Lowry were really good friends, really good teammates, traded him away to San Antonio Spurs, and in return they got Kawhi Leonard, who went absolutely apeshit last season and just did his thing and led the Raptors to the championship. Masai Ujiri goes down to the court, tries to step onto the court where he can celebrate with his team president, and a part-time security guard decided that Masai Ujiri did not have, even though he had the credentials, he has the position, and he did have every right to step onto the court to go celebrate with his teammates, with his team. And he was stopped and actually shoved, and that came out in the body cam footage that came out this week. It has been circulating on the internet. This officer actually tried to sue Masai Ujiri, saying that he pushed him and harmed him.
I think he did in response to being shoved. I could be wrong.
No, if you watch the video, he's very clearly just Masai is just pushed back. And
okay.
Stands and looks at him and tries to walk by him again, but he never extends or anything.
Okay.
But this officer, the security guard, tried to sue Mr. Ujiri
for emotional distress.
He completely lied about it. So it was completely fabricated. He tried to press charges first, and then that was shut down. There's no case here, because they had obviously seen the body cam footage, and they're like, no, man, you're wrong. You can't press charges on him. And then the security guard tried to sue, and I think that's been shut down now too, because body came out. But
he countersued too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It just it doesn't. You can't out earn or outperform being Black in America. That's the whole reason this happened. It was a Black man trying to go celebrate with his team, but because this guy wouldn't even look at Mr. Ujiri's credentials. Like in the video, you see him show his credential, and that should have been enough to get him access to the court.
Which, like, for the, like, understand, like, I get, like, needing security, right? Like, you don't want something bad to happen, right? Like, we all understand. I think this goes back to our case in point. I'm like, we don't hate the concept of someone, like a police officer, potentially protecting our community. Like, we're very for that.
Very much.
But, and, like, we also know, like, the power of a credential, like, that gets you where you need to go. Like, that's your job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, it's just ridiculous that, like, someone wouldn't know what that credential meant. And also, if I'm being 100% honest, that someone wouldn't know and, like, would not know who the big players are and who is important.
Just a failure to do your job at that point.
At these places, yeah. And the other thing that I think is, like, interesting, like, I have not experienced at, like, in and around sporting events is the body cameras.
Yeah, and I've never seen
that. Like, I think this is just further proof of, like, we want body cameras. Like, it's something so simple, and it can very clearly resolve any, I don't want to say conflict or whatever, but, like, any, like, rippling effects from an altercation.
There's no question at that point of what actually happened. There's video proof that we can all pull up our phones and watch exactly what happened, instead of it being he said, or, you know, like, this officer reporting. And at that point, it was like, this officer reported it, so it must have been fact. Or, like, all of that is just removed, and now we have something we can look at and see that it was wrong. Like, this guy and it's so crazy to me that he tried to countersue. Tried to press charges and then tried to sue a man for his own wrong actions. It's wild to me. It doesn't make any sense. Can't begin to wrap my head around.
I think that's just, like, America being America. We're very litigious. Let's just sue. Like,
go for it. Let's see what happens.
You know, like, why not? I mean, I'm sure, like, I was probably just like, I'm conjecturing, so maybe this isn't it at all, but it seems to me when he realized who that was, and I obviously don't know financials here, but I'm assuming that
I'm gonna get a check.
We were like, oh, we'll it's fine. Like, we'll settle out of court, but, like, this will be something that's wants to be settled privately, like, hush hush, which is not the case. And I think you hit the nail on the head where it's like, you could reach the pinnacle of your career, like, whatever that is. Like, you could be on the highest of highs, and because of the prejudices that people have, you could be completely leveled.
Yeah.
Like, and not even leveled, like, that's not even the right way to say it, but, like, you could just be, like, completely brought back to reality, an unfortunate reality.
Yeah. And think about that. Like, think about the high that he must have been on.
Yeah.
Winning the championship and just going, like, thinking everything's great. I'm about to go celebrate with my team. And then out of nowhere, you're just blindsided with this altercation that comes forth. And, like, I can't imagine, like, being so high on that winning of a championship and then being brought down immediately by, like, for no reason, for no good reason.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So, thoughts and well wishes to Ujiri as this whole thing is going on and everything that happened before. See if they can win another one this year. The Raptors playing some good ball right now.
Yeah, we'll see.
You want to go ahead and, I know I already broke it. I swore I said shit. So can you go ahead and give our disclosure?
Oh, yeah. We need to just, like, have that be, like, literally, like, the first thing we say. But hello, yes, if you're new and you didn't already hear Jordan swear, we like to swear. It just, like, adds a little something to a conversation. We also, if you didn't know this and you're new, we don't know everything. So with those things being said, we're learning, growing, and unlearning together. So that's our little.
Probably have some vibrant language as we do.
Yeah, and some 4-letter words.
Exactly.
For sure.
So, okay, we've discussed some pretty heavy topics before. And we always want our listeners to go out and, like we say, talk the talk. So today we're going to give you 5 tips on how to talk the talk. So when you're going through and having these uncomfortable conversations, what are some tactics and some tips that you can put into your conversations as you're going through and having them to make them the most meaningful and have the most positive impact? And because you're going to be coming into conversations with people that are going to have opposing views to you. Kaitlin and I can sit here and have a conversation for days because it's easy. We're friends. We have a relationship. And for most things, we are aligned. And even when we're not, like, there's still some similarities between, we're saying the same thing, just different words a lot of the time.
Most of the time. There may or may not have been like one call during quarantine that we were up till 3 a.m. arguing about college sports. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't think we followed all 5 of these tips at that time.
Well, some of them.
Yeah, I'd say 3 out of 5.
Yeah, that's not bad.
60%, that's not great.
Yeah, I also think that like we want to reemphasize like the impetus of this podcast was our friendship and knowing that like conversations are what is progress for something like this. Like there are other steps you can take. Obviously, like we talked last week about registering to vote and understand and the power that your vote has. That all of that's great and that's super important. But like lasting sustainable change also happens like peer to peer. So
absolutely,
and I feel like we gave some really heavy topics, and this episode will be super helpful in just understanding like and you reflecting on the conversations that you've had, like, hey, did this go well? Hey, this blew up in my damn face. Like, this was an awful conversation. I hate that person now. Like, hopefully we don't get to that situation potentially.
Right. And you always say it, and I love that you say it this way. You always say that we're learning and unlearning. And having these conversations is like you're training to do this. You're not really, unless you've done it before, it's like anything in life. Unless you've done it before, you're not going to be great at it. That going back and reflecting, even on conversations you've had previous, and revisiting those conversations with the same people, now that you are more skilled at it, can go a long way. So we'll go ahead, we'll get into it. We've got 5 tips for you, and we'll go ahead and break down each one. The first one is knowing the situation. Like there are times where it might not be the right time to have that conversation with that person. If it's a heated moment, if it's a public moment, if it's not the right situation, it's okay to know that, realize it, and have the conversation at a different time. So, if you're at a family barbecue and you're known to be problematic,
you're that cousin,
uncle, grandparent, parent, friend, whatever, says something, maybe it's not the situation to call them out in front of everyone. And then maybe it is. Maybe like that person needs to be called out and brought to the front of the congregation per se, in front of others, and that will have them change their tone. It'll have more of an impact on them and more of an impact on the way they think and what their actions are going forward. But sometimes that person might not respond the best to that, and you might want to pull them aside and let things cool off and have a conversation in private. But you, as a person who's in that situation, are going to be able to know better than what Kaitlin and I can say and prescribe for every single situation. But you can make that decision. Like, you can decide what's the best route, but you have to be able to first realize that the situation's happening and make a decision that's going to give you the best outcome from the conversation.
For sure. Like, maybe don't have the conversation at your friend's wedding, like maybe not. Don't have it via Twitter. Like,
right.
It's not great. Right. The second key component is to know yourself. So understand your values. You're listening to this podcast, you clearly care. You're doing the work for yourself. So understand where your head's at, what's important to you. And also I would say what your it's important to know your values and to understand your value system and what you believe is right and wrong. And so like in the context of probably what you're going to be talking about, you know, Black Lives Matter, I think is that's case in point. We care about that. We think that's important. So understand your value system and what that looks like. And then I lost my train of thought. I'm not a morning person. What's happening? Oh, and no, sorry. Okay, we brought it back. And I'm so good at podcasting. Know like what the results that you want out of this conversation to be ahead of time, and be like, you know, and understand to set the expectation with yourself that like, don't get bent out of shape if it doesn't go the way you want, and know how you react, because I think that's another component too, is know and understand your personality and how you handle conflict. Like hopefully like everyone handles that kind of stuff differently, but hopefully you know like when you start to get too like frustrated, upset, whatever, that you can take a step back and cool off. Or like, I know for me, like I like genuinely believe that like you get to a certain point at the base of an argument and it's a yes or a no. Like, yeah. And I feel like once I get to that core piece, which like I'm really good at arguing and getting to that core piece, and then if we fundamentally don't agree, I don't understand why we're still talking. And I know that's like a me thing, and like there's this Socratic method where one asks questions to continue to understand. And I, albeit my value system is not traditional like whatsoever. I have very independent, weird thoughts, but I believe in them very strongly. And I know that I get frustrated when I feel like we've reached that nugget of like, it's a yes or a no. And someone keeps asking questions and I'm like, I literally don't, how are we still here?
Right.
Like, how do you still have questions? This is it. It's on or off. And so I know that I get frustrated with that. And like, I need to step away because I'm just like, what? Why are we talking? Like, you need to sit with yourself now. It's not for me.
And you only know that by having the experiences. So
yes.
Part of knowing yourself, I think, goes along with, you said, like, if the conversation's not going the way that you planned, but in order to get to that point of having a plan, you have to imagine it. You have to visualize like how the conversation's going to go. So that's something that I think we all need to be doing before there's a conversation to be had. Imagining like, if you were in a situation, know how you are going to react, know what you're planning to say, know what points you're going to make, and also know like what, if said back to you, is going to get you riled up, what's going to get you in emotions, and like be able to control that. And that's all part of step 2 of or tip knowing. And then on the flip of that is step 3 or tip 3. Remember that you're talking to a person. No matter if that person has views that you don't agree with, views that you despise, views that you might absolutely hate that they have, they still are a person, despite all of those things, and not agreeing with you. They're still a human. They still have emotions. They still have thoughts, feelings, perspectives, and opinions. And the whole point of this conversation is to learn theirs and educate them on yours. And as hard as it might be to not use a 4-letter word or an emphasizing word or anything, that's going to make them more at arms, just remember that person. How are you at that? Like, I know to a point I'm good at it, but once I go past that point, I very, very quickly will change to a condescending tone. And I think that's something that I have to work on, because I know that about myself, and I know that no one's going to respond well to that. So I can take a step back right here, right now, as we're having this conversation, and realize that, but it's way harder to do it when someone's just saying something that to me is so ignorant. It makes it very, very difficult. How are you with it?
Yeah. I would say it depends. Like, if I have these conversations with like family, I'll say family, because I don't know that I would need to have these conversations with most of my friends. Which, for better or worse, I think well, for better, but I was gonna say for better or worse, my friends and I have similar ideologies, which like for something like this, it's good that we're all on the same page. But like for other things, we could have more diverse thought. This is like a non-negotiable, which is why we're friends. But I know like with family, for me, got a little temper, and I will get to a point where I'm just like, I don't want to talk anymore. Like, I'm so mad. Like, I can't. And then I also, my thing too is, which I need to remember that they're a person, because I'm super competitive. Like, and I'll frame it this way. Like, I'm competitive when when I care about it. Like when Jordan and I play Monopoly, like it's not fun. I don't like the game. I don't understand why you play a game where you have to pay rent. I do not get it in the least. Like, I already do that as an adult. It's miserable. Why would you want to play a game? This is not fun. But that's whatever, sidebar. But Jordan's really good at it. So like, I'm not competitive at Monopoly because I don't think the game is fun, and I'm going to lose because Jordan wins every time. But if there's other things that I care about that I think that I have an opportunity to win at, I am like cutthroat.
Like debating college sports at 3 a.m.
Yes, for sure. About the validity of collegiate sports, like absolutely. Like I will go 9 rounds with you no matter what, and I won't back down. Because I think that I'm right. And a lot of times when I'm wrong, I refuse to admit that you're right and I'm wrong. I'll be like, I understand your perspective, but I will never say that you are correct and I am wrong.
Respect that idea. That theory.
Maybe, I don't know that you should. I don't know that you should. But I know for me, like, I have a hard time not being combative and trying to, in the way of trying to win. Like, I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily always like, fuck you, you're wrong. I mean, I might feel it on the inside, but I feel like very rarely do I like actually say that. But I will go and like, again, I'll go until we get to that crux, like I said earlier, where it's literally the yes or no. Like, I will go hard to get to that point. And I will want to try to win at all costs. And I know, especially like as I get to know people more, I think like as a much more empathetic person, like I know what buttons I can push and I know how to like rile you up, because if you're riled up, I can like get like, that's your chink in your armor and I can get through and I can win. So that's me being like a real aggressive asshole, which is something that I need to work on, and just being like, hey, like you don't have to win. Like you really, this is, you know, like a step forward in just them listening to me. It at times could be progress, not me flipping someone's opinion completely on its head to align with me.
Right. It's going to be an ongoing thing. It's not going to be a one-time conversation for most of these topics.
Right. Well, like, I mean, I think that it should, like, well, I'm still shook that we're having some of these conversations, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah.
I have a question though, like, or something I want to talk through with you, because it's a very personal conversation, right? Like it's someone's ideas, it's someone's beliefs, and those come out in their actions, those ideas and beliefs. So it is a very personal conversation. But how do you have that personal conversation without making it personal, in the sense that you're attacking their moral and ethical fabric? Because you are, but you want to not attack them as a person. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like it's a very fine line. It's like it's a tightrope act. Like, do you have any suggestions?
I'm like trying to think about that. I know, like for me, and I don't know if this is true for everyone. Like, I care a lot about my values, and like, I would say that like that, like my value system very clearly defines like who I am and how I act. I'm kind of curious. Like, I don't know that like that's always necessarily true, or like that everyone subscribes and thinks that way, right? Like, I can think of some friends that like, I don't know, like people that I've interacted with that are like more like apolitical and like, like those types of things. And I think those, and I'm not trying to like knock people who are like that. Like, if that's you, cool. I think those conversations are typically easier because I think that,
imagine coming up on the anti-Kaitlin or the anti-Jordan, like very
oh,
opposite of like the Black Lives Matter movement or just like social and racial justice.
do you
Like the
remember
thing
where
that
I
you
live now?
I do. Yeah. So I'm like right now trying to get you trained up and make sure you're ready
Yeah.
because I'm sure you're
Yeah.
into it.
This is my like Rocky Run training scene.
The montage, eye to
uh, um, I feel like it circles back to like respect. And one thing that like we have a mutual friend who like told me this several years ago, which I use all the time. Assume positive intent. I think like for me, I always remind myself of that, like with like anything, like, and maybe at times, like I maybe give people too much like leeway on stuff, like whatever, that's my own issue, but like assume positive intent. This person isn't probably trying to like ruin your like damn life, like more likely than not when you're having this conversation, like let's let's get some feedback going back and forth. Let's have the conversation. Let's be respectful of one another. I also think that I'm one too, as soon as something gets like out of line in terms of like being respectful, like I will be very swift to be like, hello, we're not doing that. And I think that's something too that you need to, like, when we talk about know yourself, like if you ever get into a situation where things make you uncomfortable, and that could be
It will
a
be.
litany of things, like that could be so many different things and look a million different ways. But if you get to that point, know to walk away.
Yeah.
And like, I think hopefully it doesn't get to that point and like things aren't escalating, but like, yeah.
I think when you're talking about someone who has different viewpoints and different ideas and beliefs than you can't go straight to, I mean, you can, but I think if you want to have a longer, more impactful conversation, you can't go straight to you're a racist or you're a bigot. You can say that idea is racist or that idea is bigoted. But once like someone's antenna is going to go up if they don't think
Right.
you are racist, but their idea and their beliefs and their actions are racist. Saying that you, Kaitlin, are a racist, that's going to get someone's antenna to go up immediately. They're going to shut down in the conversation. They're going to automatically become defensive. Whereas you can be a little more skillful, and every word matters, especially in conversations like this. So
Yeah.
if you can pose it as you're not attacking them, you're attacking a system or a belief or a structure that's in place, it can allow them to separate themselves almost as a defense mechanism that benefits them, but it also benefits the conversation and you sharing viewpoints. So I think that's this tip right here. Remember that you're talking to a person. You have to continuously remind yourself of that when you're having these conversations with someone who's the opposite side, not even just not the opposite side. They might not be 180 from you, but they're just not where you are, and you're trying to get them to at least go
Right. Right.
And the way that you do that, I mean, you can have your opinions, you can have your beliefs, but you got to have facts. And that's what we try to provide with different topics on this show. But when you bring facts, it helps to remove opinions and beliefs. Not remove them, but it gives them foundation. It gives them, it gives them something to stand on that you can build your argument or your conversation on when you actually have real life facts. Like I always think of like Black Lives Matter, the movement, and just the idea should not be political, but it has become politicized, and it is not supposed to be like a political thing. Like there's political parts to it because that's how you get the policies in place and remove the structures that are causing the injustices. So there is like a political aspect to it, but the actual idea of Black Lives Matter isn't a political thing at all. Like it just a fact that they matter. And we need to make them matter in all aspects of life. But there's so many different, things that have been thrown around and are now wrapped up in and around the Black Lives Matter movement and the idea that aren't based in fact. So you have to be able to peel all of that back to get to the core of what it is and get to the actual facts. And you can do that with any argument or any conversation that you want to have. Like, have to be able to get to the root of what the actual question is at hand, and then have the facts that are the foundation of the ideas and the principles and the beliefs for either side of an argument. But facts, like, you have to bring those facts in order to be able to even have an opportunity to change someone's mind or perspective.
Yeah, I think like literally at the top, what were we talking about? We were talking about the conflict and the reason that there's no, like further issues, or there were, this police officer or security guard, dropped his like criminal charge. I don't know if I can say criminal, but like he tried to press charges. So is that not criminal? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
No lawyer.
Yes, lawyer. That's what it's called. I have a lawyer who confirms that is how you say it.
Look at us treating each other.
I need to like phone a friend. It's too early. It's too early. He wouldn't be awake. But anyways, we saw that like the body camera diffused any like he said, she said, but he said stuff on like what happened. We have evidence that this is what it is. If you have that, like a reasonable, rational person is not going to argue fact, right? Like albeit as long as it's from like a reliable-ish sort. There's like a lot of.
That's the hard part. That was the next part that I was going to make. That was the next point. Like, some people are just not going to believe your facts because they have other sources that they're getting their foundation for their beliefs from, whether they are factual or not, especially in these topics. But there's so many different pieces that go into it.
Right.
Like, you really have to know your side. You have to know where your beliefs come from and what the structures are that have built your beliefs and opinions, because they're going to have the same thing. They're going to have quasi-facts or pseudo-facts, or like the interpretation of the same fact differently. So you have to really know your stuff and be able to cite historical facts, cite what people actually say. Like, if you're having a conversation about whether or not our president is racist, and you have a Trump supporter that you're having a conversation with, and they say, oh, but he's done this for this community, or he's done this, but what about the things that come out of the man's mouth? Like, you can't, that's no longer something you can argue. That's literally what he has been recorded and seen and written as saying. Like, there's nothing left there to argue. Like, if you say, when Mexicans come here, they are criminals, they are drug dealers, they are rapists, that is a racist statement. Like, there's nothing to argue there, right?
One would think.
People will argue that.
Yeah.
So you have to come correct when you're having these conversations. You have to be a wealth of knowledge, and you have to be skillful in the way that you administer that knowledge and those facts, because they're going to do the same on their end. And I don't want to say us versus them thing, but when you're having these conversations, it will be that. You have to be skillful and very, not eloquent. You have to be even more pointed with the words that you choose and the way that you administer them. Because the facts are your weapons, and like, that's what's going to help you in these conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is where Jordan and I saw like a major need. Again, impetus of the podcast. Literally, like, I think this is like the meat of why we're waking up early on a Sunday. Well, it is Sunday. Jesus Christ. Why we're waking up early on a Sunday morning to like do this kind of stuff. We think it's important. We want to make sure that people can be able to have productive conversations and know all the facts. Like we don't know all the facts. Like we do research and make sure that we come as correct as one possibly could. Potentially, maybe we could be more correct. I don't know, on this podcast, but it matters. Like those details matter. Like if you know, I think it's also good too, because in knowing the facts, you're also doing your own homework. So you're learning more information. Like I don't want to speak for Jordan, but like, I feel like doing this podcast, like I've continued to learn more, and understanding and knowing that you can learn more. There's always more for you to learn is, I think, also very important.
It goes back to that training. The training is like what you surround yourself with on a day-to-day basis. So what are you reading? What social media are you following? What conversations are you having with your friends and in those circles? The more often that you're around these facts, the easier it's going to be for you to recall them. It's just like, it's like studying for when you know that test is coming up. The studying is like gathering these facts about social and racial justice. Okay, that's the studying portion, and you don't know when that pop quiz is going to come up. You're just going to encounter it, whether it's out in public or in the privacy of like a family barbecue or a cookout, you know, or just like on a phone conversation with a relative or a friend, and like they step out of line, they say something that does not align with your study materials, and that's it. That's your moment where the pop quiz is there. Are you going to pass or are you going to fail? And you're going to have a higher pass rate when you make this part of your life. When you're constantly studying, you're constantly learning, unlearning, like Kaitlin said. The more often you're doing it, the better you're going to be when you have to bring your facts and come correct. Then, do you have anything else on that piece?
No, I think we
got that
emphasize our point. I think we use the facts to get our point across.
So we've talked about knowing the situation. We talked about knowing yourself. We talked about having respect even when you don't respect someone's ideas. You have respect for the person. And we talked about bringing your facts, doing your research, and being ready for that pop quiz. So at the end of that, like, what's step 5? Step 5 is to know what is next. Give this person, the same way that we always end each episode with a call to action, there should be a call to action, either a follow-up conversation, like, oh, this was to this topic that we're discussing between the two of us. Let's have a follow-up call or a follow-up conversation, and even like set a time for it. Like, okay, like this was cool. We did this on Sunday. Let's follow up. We'll talk next Sunday. Have a nice week. Or here's something that I think you could learn from. Here's a book that, or an article that I think you could read. Or here's this speak from this influential person from history or like even the now that I want you to listen to. And like, I want to hear your perspective on what they're saying. And like, you create a dialogue and it doesn't stop, because that's not going to do anything. If you have one conversation and that's it, and it's done there, and you leave it and you never pick it back up, there's no momentum behind that. It was a one-time thing, and it had potential, but that potential doesn't ever get to come to life because the conversation doesn't keep moving.
Yeah. I think that this is also critical for you, again, to just reemphasize that you need to continue to learn for yourself, and like the work is never done.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, pat myself on the back, like I flipped another one. You
can't be the one
who
literally just posted a black square on Blackout Tuesday and that was the end. Like, that is not nearly enough. That was the day.
But it's fine. I care.
I showed that I cared once on a Tuesday, so like, I'm good. Nah, you like, step up and keep doing this, because it's keep doing it until we don't have to. And who knows when that's gonna be.
Well, yeah. Again, I just don't understand why.
Point
of this is a thing, but I mean, I understand why it's a thing. I don't understand why it's a thing now.
Right.
But let me phrase it that way.
Right. Why it still has to be a thing.
Yes.
All right. So we had 5 tips. Know the situation. Know yourself. Remember that you're talking to another human being. As hard as that, I have to emphasize this one. As hard as that may be, at times. This one I don't think is hard. Bring your facts. Like tip 4, bring those facts. Listen to us, listen to other people that are talking about these things, do your own research, find the resources that you trust and you believe in, and bring the facts. And then never let the conversation just be one conversation. Find out what's next, make next steps, follow up, and continue to be the change that we need to see in the world. And that kind of takes us right into the segment, what you didn't learn in class.
Yeah, I feel like we were taking turns. Do you want to do this one?
Yeah.
We were going like every other, every other week, but.
You started, you tee it up for me.
Okay, so what you didn't learn in class, conflict resolution, right? Like, I feel like I started like my business school classes and they're talking about like communication is super important and like understanding your personality type and how you handle conflict. It is wild. I feel like yes, like those things are super important. And I don't understand why we're not teaching kids in school, like, hey, this is how you talk to a person. This is how you handle conflict. This is how other people handle conflict. Like that seems to me to be like so critical and like it is not a thing in high school. Like I think high school would probably be the great age to do that because you're forming your personalities a little bit more. But anyways, part of what we want to talk about today is how you handle conflict. So when things get a little saucy and you might start using those 4-letter words that Jordan and I love, like what can you do to like de-escalate? We like the feel, felt, found moment, which is when you say like, I feel this way. This is how you, other people have felt this way. We found that this is our like resolution. So you're relating it back to yourself. Because again, remember, you're a person, you're talking to a person. Saying that other people have felt that way normalizes a very difficult conversation. And then like the found portion is the moving forward and the resolution of where you want to go. So like, hey, listen, there's a path to get to, there is a very clear path that other people have taken to come and meet me here. Let's see if we can go there. I think it's a really critical part of using that human element. Remember that we're talking to a person. We want to respect them. We want them to respect us. We want to have respect for ourselves. It's those like human connections and those really like personal things where you say like, I feel this way right now, that will help a conversation go from a shouting match to a conversation again.
Yeah. And it's also nice because it just gives you structure in when you're using your feelings and your findings. It keeps it organized because you can have all these thoughts and all these feelings that you want to get out, and they can become jumbled. They can become unclear. They can sound and feel great in your head, but this feel, felt, found method is great because it gives you a nice way to share it in an organized and understandable and relatable way. Because everyone has feelings. Everyone knows other people have feelings, and you share your findings. It's a very big message. So love that. You didn't learn it in class, but you learned it on. Get out there. And our call to action this week is to go use this stuff. Like, go have a conversation. And we always want you to go have conversations. So don't just do it just this week after you listen to this episode, but do it all the time. But this week, when you listen to this podcast, we want to hear from you. We want to hear what conversations you're having, how the conversations are going, what the next steps were from that conversation, and where we can help. Like, what can we do? What questions can we answer? What experiences do you have you had that could that you need help with from us or from the Talk to Talk community? Or what have you tried and has had success and you want to share with the Talk to Talk community? Get at us, let us know. We have our social. We have our Instagram, our IG page, Talk to Talk podcast on IG. We've got our email, talktotalktheshow@gmail.com. So email us, message Kaitlin and I directly. You can DMs. You have our numbers. You can text us. You can comment.
Oh, I was like, no, we're not putting our
No,
cell phone numbers on the
we're not doing that. But if you already have it, then it's good.
We love new friends, but like, I also don't want to put my personal information
I'm
like that.
I'm very bad at texting sometimes. So it would be very helpful. Way better on the social, or hit us on the email. You can also comment on the YouTube page if that's where you're watching. Hit us in the comments. Message us wherever. We want to hear from you all. We always say that we want this to be a community, and I feel like it's starting to get some legs. We want to keep it going that way. So this week's call to action: have a conversation and let us know how it goes. And if you've already had a conversation, let us know how that went. Or if you want to prepare for a conversation, let us know. All right. Anything else on you?
I think we're good.
Hey, I love this one. I'm excited for what's next. Get out there, teach yourself, research for yourself, and be ready to fight racism wherever you see it. Get out there and talk the talk. Peace.
See ya. I'm so excited for biscuits. Oh my God. Oh, we're still recording.